A high school graduate of Beaufort High School in 2007, went on to the Citadel, had a tremendous career there, broke a lot of records in the Southern Conference, and for his efforts was the only first-rounder ever drafted out of the Citadel by the Toronto Blue Jays. That got him into his professional career that spanned over 13 years, including 5 seasons in the big leagues with the Astros, Reds, Orioles, and Yankees. So a ton of history. Team USA, we're going to get to all that information. Wojo is what we're going to go by because it's a little bit easier on this podcast. So Wojo, first of all, thank you for joining us today. And how are you?
Hey, Austin. Yeah, thanks for having me. Doing well. Really excited to get on with y'all and tell my story. But yeah, excited to be here.
Well, your story is a very interesting one, one that I was able to kind of do a little research on. And before we talked pre-recording, you told me some other cool stuff that I want to make sure we get into this podcast that people are going to want to know. So let's just kind of dial it way back, man. All right, you've had the resume. I just spit that out. But I want to kind of talk about Asher Wojciechowski, the person, the kid, and that, became the pitcher that we saw and had a lot of success at the big league level and everywhere away. You finished at Beaufort High School, but you got an interesting past before that. So take us all the way back, wind back the clock. Give us an idea, little Wojo. Where did it start, and how did you get to the States and South Carolina?
Yeah, let me dive back. We'll go childhood and everything growing up. So first off, I was born in Pensacola, Florida. So it's on my MLB bio. They got that wrong. So a lot of people say on my MLB bio it says I was born in Hardeeville, South Carolina, and that one's wrong because for some reason, that's where I was when I signed, or that's where my parents' address was, and they put that down as my birthplace, but I was actually born in Pensacola, Florida, and then we lived there till I was about 5 or 6, and then during that time, so I grew up, my parents were missionaries, and my dad was a pastor, and during that, when I was about 4 or 5, we actually did a short-term missions trips to Dominican Republic, to Puerto Plata, for about 3 or 4 months. And we moved there, and I remember I was like 4 or 5, and I'm loving baseball. I grew up, throwing a baseball since I was 2, 3 years old, and we moved to Dominican Republic. I'm playing baseball in the streets with the kids, and just my love of the game even grew more there. But then from there, after Dominican Republic, we moved to Sturgis, Michigan, a small town in Michigan. And we were there for about 3 years. And then when I was 9, my parents said, hey, we're going to move to Romania. And at that moment, I thought that I'd never play baseball again. So there wasn't baseball in Romania or in Europe, just thinking I was going to have to, go play soccer. And we get over there, and for the first 2 years, there was no baseball. And I was definitely struggling with that. But in our second year there, when I was 11, we found out that they were going to have a Little League team in Romania. And so I was able then to play for Team Romania. That summer we practiced. It was myself and like 2 other Americans and then like 12 Romanians who had never played baseball before. But we practiced all summer. We had, since my parents were missionaries, we had like missions teams coming over because we worked in the orphanages in Romania and would bring in supplies to the kids in the orphanages. So these missions teams then brought over some baseball equipment for our team to use. So we used the bats that we brought over and gloves. And so, like I said, we practiced all summer, and then we got to go to Kutno, Poland, where the European Little League World Series is hosted. And if you win there, then you go to Williamsport and you play in the Little League World Series. But I always tell the story of playing in the European Little League World Series because that was kind of the springboard moment for me when we showed up to Kutno, Poland. We had been playing on a makeshift dirt soccer field in Bucharest, Romania. But when we pulled up to the stadium in Kutno, and it was just a very nice Little League field. I vividly remember walking up to it and like getting that feeling of like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. I want to play professional baseball. I want to be a big leaguer. And that was just such a cool moment to be in Europe, be in Poland and representing Romania, and then be able to have that feeling and be able to chase that from that moment on. So European Little League World Series, we didn't play well. We won 1 game. We beat Ukraine. I pitched that game, started that game, and we ended up beating Ukraine. And I remember when we won that game, we celebrated like we won the World Cup. It was like the last out was made, a fly ball to right field. Our right fielder caught it, and we all like dogpiled in center field. And it was just one game that we won, but man, it was such a cool experience. But then, so yeah, I got to play for Team Romania in Europe when I was 11, and then when I was 12, so we spent 3 years in Romania, and then when I was 12, we moved back to Michigan. And then that's where I really just started. I played one more year of Little League as a 12-year-old, and then just really started to even fall in love more with baseball and continue to chase that dream. And we spent about 4 years in Michigan. And when I was 16, so second semester my junior year, we moved down to Beaufort, and then that's where I started just growing into my body a little bit more. I still was a late bloomer, so I wasn't highly recruited out of high school. And one being, I was second semester junior, moving down to South Carolina, hadn't been playing in any travel ball tournaments down here, but ended up continuing just to get better. I always tell people this: I wasn't the best player on my team, but I do believe that I had the drive and I had the discipline, that more than anybody else. So I wanted it more than I would say my teammates. And so I was always practicing, always throwing, always hitting, trying just to get better, trying to, yeah, be the best player I could possibly be. And so then that then got me recruited by the Citadel and Coach Beckley, and he found me at a summer ball team. I played for the Palmetto Sand Gnats at the time, which was in Columbia. So I was in Beaufort, driving up to Columbia on the weekends, and really just started just getting a lot better. And then ended up getting recruited at the Citadel, got a small scholarship to start, and I mean, at the time, I think it was like a 20% scholarship to go to the Citadel, and then went there. And my freshman year is where I really started to make some jumps. So, call it the military training, call it the push-ups, the weight room. But I went from being, I had a good frame, I was 6'4", 210, good mechanics. But when I really started getting after it from a discipline standpoint, but then just growing into my body, like I put on 15 pounds of muscle. It wasn't your typical freshman 15. It was like 15 pounds of just one, military school, and then the weight room. And then I started seeing some really big jumps in my development, and went from being a guy that was 86 to 89 to all of a sudden that fall I was 90, 93. And then by that spring I was 93 to 96. And always had a good slider. I had a good slider from the time I was 14, 15. That was taught by me from a pitching coach, from going to a facility up in Michigan and training with the guy. But then when my body started to develop and I got stronger, then all of that got better as well. And so, yeah, that was kind of my development in my childhood of being, born in Florida, spending time in Dominican Republic, spending time in Michigan, Romania, back to Michigan, down to Beaufort, and then wound up at the Citadel, and put together some good years there. And yeah, and then that then blossomed into getting drafted in the first round and then playing for 13 years.
Well, I would say you certainly had a tremendous career at the Citadel. You walked in and started, for the most part, you started from day one and had 3 tremendous seasons there. As we mentioned, the only first rounder to ever come out of a baseball-rich program. So from there, you get popped in the first round. You're off to the minor leagues. You've already traveled the world. So I'm sure going off to play, spring training and being off on your own wasn't necessarily a completely a foreign thing to you, I guess. But now pro ball started, so you're climbing that ladder, and now the goal obviously is to get to the big leagues. And if you're drafted in the first round, that's the expectation, right? Tell us a little bit about being a first rounder and early times as being a professional baseball player.
Yeah, I'll date back first to after my sophomore season at the Citadel. So I had a good freshman season at the Citadel, didn't play summer ball because I threw a lot as a freshman. And then my sophomore year, I kind of had a little bit of a sophomore slump, didn't come in and throw the ball as well. I strained my oblique and I missed about a month or a little over a month, but came back from that injury. And I had a great game in the Southern Conference tournament, and I went complete game shutout and against Elon, who was a very good team that year. And I struck out 15, and that game then got me invited to the USA trials. And ended up going to the USA trials, and I was a little unsure about my talent. I knew that I was, pitching well in the Southern Conference, but when I went to the USA trials, I'm playing with the best players in the country. I mean, we had Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer, Sonny Gray, Drew Pomerantz, and I'm up, throwing with these guys. And that was another really big moment for me when went to the trials. I threw really well. I made the team, and all of a sudden I'm in that swing man role for Team USA. So I was either the sixth starter or long relief spot starter guy. So that was a little bit of foreshadowing of how like my pro career in the big leagues was. I was pretty much a swing man in the big leagues. If I was throwing well, I'd usually be in the starting rotation, or I'd get moved to the bullpen, be the long guy there. Usually I'd throw well at the bullpen, get moved back to the starter. So Team USA kind of really prepared me for that. Team USA really gave me the confidence and pushed me to understand, like, hey, I can get drafted and I can really do this. And so that then gave me the confidence. I went into my junior year, had a great junior season, got drafted in the first round. And then, started my pro ball career. And then, so stepping into that, being a first rounder, having the pressure of being a first rounder, and then going into pro baseball, I felt very prepared for it, having traveled the world and gone through military school, where just acquiring just really good discipline and time management and realism from that standpoint. So I really felt really prepared. But even in that, my first year of pro ball, I started off really hot. And then I did have in that first season, I had one bad game, and then the pitching coordinator came in and the pitching coach came in, and they wanted to experiment with me. And at the time, Roy Halladay was just absolutely dominating. So this is 2011. Roy Halladay had been, lower arm slot guy, throwing sinkers at the bottom of the zone, cutters, curveball, and he'd just been dominating. And the Blue Jays had experimented with him. When he originally was drafted, he was a higher velocity guy, higher arm slot, and struggled. And then when they dropped him down, he ended up being who he was. So they tried the same thing with me, but it didn't didn't quite go as well. So I really struggled trying to throw from a lower arm slot and trying to sink the ball. And this is before TrackMan and all the data and analytics is really just the eye test. But for me, like, my strengths were, I was a four seam guy. What set me apart was I threw from my angle, my vertical approach angle, and the carry that I had on the ball. I threw, even though it was 92, 93, and I could run it up to 95, but I threw with extremely good vertical break. So a lot of really good carry, especially from the slot that I threw. And so trying to throw sinkers really wasn't a good combination for me. It really just made me find barrels rather than be at the top of the zone and miss barrels. So that was a good learning point for me my first year in pro ball. Second year, I ended up getting traded to Houston, and then I came up with Houston and really just threw the ball well for them. So 2013, I had some great seasons, got put on the 40-man roster, and then 14, ended up getting hurt in spring training. I tore my lat, and then didn't have a great comeback season from that. Spent the whole season in AAA, but then in 15, broke with the team, made my debut with the Astros. Was back and forth from AAA to the big leagues that whole year. And then 16 was that's where I really had to kind of reevaluate myself, because I was trying to make myself better, but within that I was creating some bad habits, and I didn't have a consistent pitching coach. I didn't have somebody to work with in the off season. I was trying to do it all on my own, and really kind of created some bad habits. So ended up getting DFA'd in 16. Went to Miami, didn't throw the ball well there. And then that just started a whole slew of pretty much playing for a different team every year from 17 on. But really was able to take all that from 17 on, and I really started diving in on, like, how do I become better? Where do I need to go train? I need to go find a pitching coach. I need to find consistency and have somebody watch me. And then was able then to, from 17 on, put together some good years with multiple different teams. And then yeah, was able to get 5 seasons, parts of 5 seasons, about 3 full years in the big leagues, with 4 different teams, and then, yeah, played for up until 2022, and then my hips gave out and ended up needed to get a hip replacement, and called it quits in 2022. Yeah, that's a quick little run through of the 13-year pro career that I had.
Well, you did have a tremendous career. As I did some research, I mean, throughout the minor leagues and in the big leagues, you struck out one per inning. K per nine was nine, and that puts you in rarefied air. Obviously, you said you always had the stuff. You said you mentioned the slider, and I remember about you in high school. The one time I got a chance to see you throw, that you already had that, and obviously you were able to build off of that. And of course, as your velocity increased, the slider was a little later, a little tighter, and probably a little better as well.
Mhm.
How much did you have to learn to pitch when you got, I mean, you dominated college baseball, and then you got into professional baseball where everybody's pretty stinking good, right? And even with good stuff, you were getting punch outs, but you had to battle through some more difficult times and some adversity maybe for the first time. What did you learn about yourself, as you, whether it be arm issues or just having to struggle? What did you learn about Wojo during those times, during the minor leagues, and as you toiled to either get to the big leagues or get back to the big leagues?
Yeah, I think, biggest thing I learned was to not overcomplicate things. Like you mentioned that I had a great slider. There was times that when I was struggling, that even that I'm in AAA or I'm in pro ball now, that I thought that I need another pitch, or I need to make the slider better, or I need to locate better. One thing, and that's one a kind of a problem that I had, is I was always trying to get a little bit better, but there was times where I would get away from what I was really good at. So I was a really good fastball slider combo guy. And then there was times where I was trying to focus so much on a changeup, and it would take away from my strength. So to answer your question there, biggest thing I learned and biggest thing I tell my athletes now that I'm training is like, hey, we're going to find what you're really good at, and we're going to lean into that as much as we can. And we don't need to necessarily try to find a third or fourth pitch right now. Let's get your one and two pitches really good, and then we can start moving to that third pitch or that fourth pitch. But to answer your question, yeah, what I learned was don't overcomplicate it. Lean into your strengths, be who you are. Don't try to be anybody else. I see guys all the time that whoever's the hottest pitcher, all right, they see, like, it's Yamamoto right now. Okay, what he did in the World Series, and everybody's now trying to emulate him and what he does in his little prep routine and his throwing. And yes, it's great to watch guys, and it's great to try to pick, like, maybe I can try to do this. Maybe I can try to implement this into my routine or into my throw. But really, it's understanding yourself and being confident and comfortable in yourself, and then leaning into what you're good at, and then adjust accordingly. So that's the biggest thing, that when I look back, I tried to change too many things at one time rather than, hey, I have a great fastball, great slider, like, lean into that, and then adjust accordingly.
I'm a real big sucker for guys who have had the history that you have at the professional level. I like stories, man. A couple stories I'd like to hear from you is, one, when you got the call to the big leagues, how did you feel? Who did you call? Tell us about that moment. And then also, when did you know that it was the end for you? As your career was winding down, how did you know that that was it and then there was time for something else?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So my call to the big leagues. So it actually came in. So spring training of 2015 with the Astros. I had a great spring training. Came in. I think I threw 20 innings. Had a 1.7 ERA. About a strikeout per inning. So really dominated that spring training. And then I was always really early to the ballpark, especially in spring training. I'd get there around 5:45 a.m. And so I walk in. This is towards the end of the spring. They hadn't announced, if I had made the team or not. So I walk in to the building, and AJ Hinch is there. And as I walk in, I walk by his office. He calls me in. He goes, I knew you're always the first one here. I knew you'd be here. So come on in. So I'm sitting there, and he kind of didn't directly say, hey, you made the team. It was more of, the conversation was like, hey, we love what you've been doing. You've put together a great spring. We love your work ethic. We love, like your fastball, your slider looks really good. The cutter you've been working on looks really good. Your changeup has developed a lot. And that's why you're going to be pitching for us on game 3 opening day. And it was still early in the morning for me. And I was just kind of like, okay. He's like, that's the reaction we get. And I was like, yeah, like I came in expecting to make the team, but I was like, okay, sounds good. And then like got up and walked out. And then it kind of hit me like once I walked out of the room. I called my wife right away, told her that, I made the team and we're going to be on the opening day roster. And that was a really cool moment to be able to call my wife. And then calling my parents is where that one kind of hit different, because just the journey that we had been through and like the travel ball tournaments that, my parents drove me to and all the time we put in. I remember calling them and like getting choked up and just like having that flood of emotions of like, hey, like I made the team. And then like hearing them, crying on the phone. It's like that one always remember like hits when I think back and remember that one. So the interesting part on this was like I still had like 10 days before I was going to make my debut. So that waiting for my debut was a long time, because I made my start. They told me I'd made the team. We still had a couple spring training games, and then I was going to pitch game 3 against Cleveland. So like I had 10 days of buildup. So I had to throw like another bullpen. I had to wait around. I had to throw like a sim game. So that 10 days that was a long time. Most of the time you get the call and you're pitching the next day or you're pitching in 2 days. So it was definitely a long time. But then in that debut, it was the debut for me. It was a day game against Cleveland. I was facing Trevor Bauer, and things, I felt prepared, but when I think back and when I always say like be yourself and be confident, I felt like in that debut I was trying to be too perfect. Like in spring training, I was letting it rip. I was just out there confident, pitching myself. And then I made the jump to the big leagues. I'm like, oh, I'm in the big leagues now. And then I felt like I had to be even more perfect rather than just be the same guy that I was in spring training. So that debut, I even like my velo was down, everything, because I was trying to place the ball. Like I was like, I can't miss. I'm going to get hit if I'm not perfect. And that's where it was a good learning moment for me on taking that confidence and not trying to change anything just because you're in the big leagues now. So debut outing didn't go great. I went 4 innings, gave up 4, but it's still a really cool moment just to walk in Minute Maid and pitch on that field. So yeah, that was kind of that finding out you're pitching, you made it to the big leagues, and then in that debut. And then on the flip side of that, when I knew I was done, so in 2021, towards the end of the season, 2021, I really started dealing with a lot of hip pain. I had bad hips like pretty much from the time I was 14, 15. Like when I grew 6 inches one summer, I remember having like a tremendous amount of hip pain. But it really started to affect me in like 2016. I started like all of a sudden my hips just started. I wouldn't be really sore in my arm after a game, but my hips would be really sore and they'd be like throbbing. And come to find out, I had like MRIs and x-rays on them, and I had like no cartilage in my hips, and I had severe arthritis in both hip sockets and bone on bone, no cartilage. But all that being said, 2021, I really started feeling the pain and like pinching and like just constant just aching from the hips. And so that was also causing a lot of anxiety for me. So like I'd get really nervous and like sweaty palms before I pitched because I knew I didn't feel great. And then that carried on. I was able to pitch in 2021. In 2022, I was still feeling it a lot. And then that's where 2022, I just like started having a tremendous amount of pain in my hips and just the anxiety to try and get ready each day to pitch, and then ended up getting hurt and like having severe like back spasms and hip impingement. And so that was for me, that was the moment where I'm like, hey, I don't think I can do this much longer. And knowing what type of surgery that was going to come along with it, and then where I was in my career of being 33 years old, being a 4A guy that bounced back and forth between AAA and the big leagues a lot and didn't have great big league numbers, but I was a good AAA pitcher. Just knowing that it's like, hey, if I get this surgery and I come back at 35, 34, 35 years old, just the road that it would take for me, and knowing that my window of being a big leaguer was most likely closed, and that's when I knew that it was over for me. But still, it was a very tough decision because, I'd been a baseball player my whole life, been playing professionally for 13 years, but I knew that just when the amount of work that it was going to take for me to continue and get through a surgery and then come back. And then for me mentally, I knew I was done when I was like, I don't want to do that. I've always attacked the challenge of like, hey, I want to be the best. I'm going to put in all the work. I'm going to have that fire to come in and train every day and get better. But when I didn't have that and I was like, I don't know if I want to do all that, that's when I knew that for me personally, it was done. And so that was my stepping off moment, was once I lost that fire and I was like, I don't want to do all this work to try and get back to the big leagues. I knew it, called it quits at that moment.
Even though your body was barking at you, and that ultimately became, I guess, what signaled the end for you, is what I'm hearing you say. The
hmm
love of the game doesn't change, and the routine, and you're a very routine-oriented person. When February rolls around, you're used to going to spring training, and obviously we sit right now in the middle of spring training starting to wind down, and opening day rosters are starting to be shaped right now. It's been a few years, been 4 years since you had to go ahead and I guess raise the white flag on your career. But like I said, the love doesn't go anywhere. How was that first spring? How was that first year out of it as a player? That first spring training that you did not attend, and then a few years later, where are you at when baseball season rolls around? Do you still think like a player, or have you switched gears?
Yeah. So yeah, that first spring was extremely difficult. Like I definitely had to fight with some depression because it was every spring you get that itch. Like January hits, you're training, then February you leave for spring training, and then that excitement of like, hey, I've been working hard. I'm gonna try and make this team. The excitement of wherever you're going, the playing, just of that competition. It's such an exciting time as a player. And then when you're done, you have to wrestle with that because you're like, what's next? And trying to figure out, how do I provide for my family from this point on? And then not going to a spring training, not being a part of a team, not being around with the guys. It's definitely a really difficult time for athletes and for players to go through. And just talking with so many guys who've gone through, I mean, there's definitely a depression, and there's it feels like a death in the family because a big part of you as a player is gone. And so having to deal with that is something that every athlete has to walk through, and it's a lot more difficult than I thought it'd be. I couldn't watch baseball for about 18 months. Like every time I turn it on, it would trigger some raw emotions, and all of a sudden I'd be feeling pretty depressed about myself and watching my buddies throw and play and like happy for them, but then those feelings of like, man, I'm 34. I could still be doing this. Should I have retired? I want to be back out there. And so it was a difficult time. And then also during that first spring training, I was still in a lot of pain. I had not gotten hip surgery yet, so it was a tough time for me to go through. But the next year, a little bit less. And then still, second spring training, I still got that itch. I'm like, I need to be doing something. I need to be back out there. But then year three, really less. And then now year four, like it's exciting, but I don't get that itch. Now that I've started my coaching business and my facility, it's exciting to work with guys and get them ready for the season. And that really is what scratches the itch for me now. So I'm getting guys ready, using all the wisdom and experiences that I've learned, and then be able to just pour that into guys, and whether that's a confidence thing or a pitch design or preparation, it's just helping guys get better. And then see them go and succeed, and then be able to work with guys on if they're struggling. So because I've been through it, and then just be able to pour into the next generation is what helps. And and gives me purpose now on the baseball front.
Well, Wojo, you mentioned the facility you have, and folks, I want you to listen up here because this next part is really interesting. Wojo, you got your hands in all kind of stuff right there in Charleston. I want you to tell folks a little bit about the facility that you have, and what else. Kind of expand a little bit more on the point that you were making about helping others, but also talk globally and some of the different things you have going on there.
Yeah, so I started my coaching business called Journey Far Performance. I used the pun of, Journey Far. I was a journeyman. I was a journey kid. Life's a journey, the journey of baseball and wherever it takes you. And so I started Journey Far because, like, hey, you do this journey, and it's not about the destination. It's about the journey and the process, and putting in the work, and whatever happens happens. So I started this business couple years ago to where I'm coaching, mentoring, and training athletes that want to play at the next level. So I'm usually starting anywhere from, middle school, high school, working with college guys, working with pro guys, really just providing the service that I wish I had as a player. Like I mentioned earlier, just I played on 10 different organizations. In the off seasons, I'd come back to Charleston and we didn't have a great facility to train at. Like we'd go back to the Citadel and throw, we use their weight room, but for the most part, there wasn't a great spot to come in and have a track man, have an Edgertronic camera, have a weight room, have everything indoors, in house. And so I created that. Like I said, I created a service that I wish I had to help guys get better and help guys have a coach to watch them take their video, upload it to the On Form app. Every session that guys train with me, we go back, we upload all the videos, we do slow motion when they get their TrackMan data. We help teach and educate on their pitches and like what their pitch profiles are, and so that we can lean into their strengths and help them get better and help them understand, hey, your fastball's doing this, you should probably throw it in this part of the zone. Hey, your slider's really good, we want to throw that more. Hey, be great with these two profiles if we can create a cutter or a harder slider. But really we're just diving in to help guys and provide stuff that we wish we had. And then we also, like, on the preparation side, just building systems and routines for guys to follow and then tweak accordingly. So everybody's different, and we don't do a cookie cutter approach here, but we do really lean into the spine mobility, hip mobility, shoulder mobility, and then the strength and stability that comes with that. So helping guys understand everything that they need to do before they pick up a baseball on a daily routine, and then giving guys access to myself, to our other coaches who have big league experience, to where, hey, after a bad game or after things aren't feeling good, like they pick up the phone and call us, or they can come in and we can work on things. And it's just, we've been seeing a lot of really good results from guys, and it's just really, really cool to see from that perspective. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here in Charleston, able to work our facilities in Hanahan. So it's really centrally located. So able to work with guys from Somerville, North Charleston, West Ashley, James Island, Mount Pleasant, Daniel Island. I mean, it is centrally located, 20 minutes for everybody to get here. It's been a great spot. It's a big facility, no low hanging nets, and uh, plenty of room to throw. I mean, bad weather days, it's great. And then in the summer, it's great. All right, we don't have to deal with the rain or it gets a little hot in here, but we don't have to be outside in the sun for it. So, and then we can get all our lifting in, as you see, like the weight room in the back. We have a weight room, and then multiple mounds, and so really, really proud of what it's become and what we're building here. And on the international side, so just with my international background, I wanted to get back into the international game and help develop players and help be, a coach and somebody that, for any kid that's living in Europe or living in places that don't have baseball, for them to have access to great coaching. So along those lines, I then was presented with the opportunity to be the pitching coach for the Croatian national team, and that's been just a great experience. So last year we went to the European Championships. And so every 2 years, so that was in 2025. The next European Championship is in 2027. So we went to Croatia. We were there for I brought my family, my wife and my son, and we were in Croatia for about 3 weeks and working with the Croatian national team. We then went to Antwerp, Belgium. And that was our first pool play, and we ended up going 3-0 and sweeping our group. And then funny story here in that group, I actually had to come out of retirement and pitch a game against Austria, and I got the save against Austria. So I'd been 3.5 years removed from playing, but I stay in pretty decent shape from training the guys, and I throw with them. And I'm the pitching coach, and I'm sitting there getting all our pitchers ready, and I'm calling pitches, and I'm making decisions on who's going in. But we were pretty low on arms just with the guys that we had coming in for that tournament, and the situation presented itself to where the Austria tied the game in the bottom of the eighth, and it was 2-2, and then we took the lead in the top of the ninth, 4-2, and we had used our closer in the eighth, and then I had to come in and pitch, and so I came in and got the save against Austria, got two punch outs and a pop up to first. So, but yeah, it was definitely a pretty nervous moment for me. One, I didn't want to get hurt, but two, just in a high leverage situation, not pitching in 3.5 years, and then having to get a save. So then, yeah, then we moved on, and then we ended up beating Sweden, and then we had to play the number one seed Netherlands, who had Didi Gregorius, Jonathan Scope, a few other big leaguers on the team, and we played them extremely well. Ended up losing 3-1 to Netherlands, and then Netherlands went on and won the whole tournament. And then we're watching Netherlands in the World Baseball Classic right now. They were in the pool down in Miami. So really cool for Croatia, for us to advance how we did and play as well as we did. And looking forward to what we're doing in the future there. Along with that, I'm doing pitching clinics in Europe. Last month, I went to Austria and did a coaches clinic and a pitching clinic, just teaching, philosophies on movement efficiency and, pitching mechanics and just how to prepare your pitchers. And then I did a pitching clinic and worked with pitchers all day from Austria, then popped down after that down to Croatia, worked with some of our guys in Croatia. So yeah, that's what I have going on now on the international front. I'll be, traveling to Europe, every couple months to work with guys. And then this summer, actually, we have a tournament that the Croatian national team will be playing in Prague, and it's called Prague Baseball Week. So we'll head over there. We'll play in a tournament, and then head back, and then pretty much from that point on, we will be preparing for the 2027 European Championships. And then all this is entail for us to make a run at the 2028 Olympics. So that's our end goal, is to get the team to where we're in a spot to qualify for the Olympics and play in the 2028 Olympics. So it's a big goal, but we're excited for the challenge, and we're putting things in place to put ourselves in a good position there.
I love the story that you've got the power to just activate yourself mid-game. And, hey, look, you know what? Just hand me that ball. I can go do this a little bit better than you. Which makes me wonder if we'll see you maybe in the 28 Olympics if Croatia is able to advance to that point. It'd really be cool to be able to see you do that. And with you
Yeah,
working
I
with
will.
it, with you working with other people every single day, you'll stay in shape, and you'll probably have that itch again, I would imagine.
I will say, like, after I got that save, for me personally, everyone was like, "Oh, did you get the itch? Do you want to make a comeback?" And I was like, "No, like personally, like no, I didn't." Like it was a really cool moment to be able to pitch in that situation. But when you make that transition from player to coach, I think for me personally, the amount of bandwidth that I have, like as a coach, and the amount of attention to detail that it takes for a coach to prepare your pitchers, but then also try to prepare yourself, it was a lot. And so I definitely didn't have the itch to be like, yeah, I'm going to do that again. I really want to focus in. My playing days are done. Like I said, my window is closed. My goal now is to get the next group in the best position as possible, and help them succeed, and not try to put myself in the position of like, oh, I want the ball. Because that's what I was as a player. I always wanted the ball. Any high leverage situation, any moment is like, "Oh, give me the ball. I wanna do it." But now it's like, I wanna build that up into the players I coach. There's like, no, they want the ball. And then that's what you want as a coach. You want guys who want the ball, who wanna be in the situation.
Well, you took that rock a lot of times and did it very successfully. But in my research, I see that you had an at bat in spring training and you even have a ribby. Tell us about how you got a run on. I think it was a sac fly. You punched out once too. Tell us
Yeah.
what it's like being in the box facing guys like you.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's BP's fun as a pitcher, but, man, I hit in high school. I didn't hit in college, and then I went, 7 years without touching a bat. And then, yeah, got an at bat when I was with the Astros, and we were playing the Phillies, and I just got a fastball to hit, was a little late on it, flew out to right and got a sac fly. So, that yeah, it was a ribby in spring training, but also, I mean, I did get one knock in the big leagues, and, it was, when I was with the Reds in 17. I think I got about 15 at bats, struck out probably 12 times, but got one base hit to right and then almost thrown out at first from the right fielder. So we're playing the Padres, and Hunter Renfroe's playing in and right, and he usually leads the league in outfield assists. And I hit a line drive to him. He comes up throwing from right field, and I'm having to book it down the line, and I beat it by a step. But I was like, man, that would have been just embarrassing to like get your first hit and get your hit taken away if you're thrown out from the right fielder. And I was never blessed with being fleet of foot, so I was always a pretty slow runner. But yeah, I was able to beat that one out and get my one and only knock in the big leagues.
Well, it sounds like any ball you put in play, looked like backside put on the heater, just getting beat, but enough to get put it in play. Now, did they
Yep.
give you the ball for your knock?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I have the ball. So I have a collection of things that I keep at my house of, first big league strikeout, first big league hit, first win. I think like first 10 strikeout game. Yeah, I have a few things that I've held on to.
It's really cool. Well, we'll go ahead and start to wind down, but, you've got so much going on. You really do have your hands in a lot of different endeavors, both locally and abroad. Do you find time for anything for yourself? Do you have any hobbies? What are some things you like to do when baseball's not at the center of it?
hmm Well, yeah. So now, I mean, what I spend my time is like I have a 2-year-old son. So, being a dad has been just so rewarding, and just a new phase of life that I've really just been enjoying. And so, spending time with my son and my wife, and we love to travel. So, doing stuff internationally, then we mix in, travel and being able to see the sights. So loving that, and loving that I get to pair what I love to do is baseball with travel, has been really rewarding and a lot of fun. And then, hobby wise, I love to play golf. I didn't play golf as a growing up, and I didn't play golf as a professional baseball player. So when I got done, it was a great new challenge for me to attack of, figuring out the game of golf, figuring out the mechanical adjustments, and it correlates so well to pitching. So that's where I'm able to implement my athleticism, but also like my philosophies and movement and everything from being a pitcher to a golf swing, and then approach from a golf and visualizing shots. And now I'm just able to correlate the two all the time. And it's a really great crossover. So yeah, so when I'm not coaching and I'm not training guys, I'm spending time with my family and trying to get out on the golf course when I can, and work on the golf game. So, not a big fishing guy or anything, but I like going to the beach. But yeah, golf's been a great outlet, and something that, like I said, just crosses over really well with what I'm doing now.
You're still a pretty young guy, but you've done a lot with your life to this point. And with that come a lot of people along your path as well. Before we finish up here, just any folks, you've mentioned some people throughout this podcast, but any other folks that you want to give a shout out to that have been instrumental in your journey?
Yeah. I mentioned my wife, and like she's been extremely instrumental. Like we met, my junior year when I was at the Citadel, and we've been together the whole time. And just having that partner along with you in the journey of baseball is huge. You like having that support system with you to build you up, because baseball is a game of failure. So it's learning, and you're going to have your ups and downs. But when you have that support system and that somebody behind you to push you and encourage you, it's been huge. along this journey. And then, my parents have been great throughout this whole process, and everything that, a baseball mom or a baseball dad does for their son, and the amount of work and time that it takes. I mean, it takes a village, and it's when you have that support system, it just helps tremendously. Coaching wise, like we mentioned Coach Beck, and Beck recruited me at the Citadel, and he's a guy that always believed in me. And then my coaches, like Coach Jordan at the Citadel, he gave me great opportunities and believed in me. He was a guy that, you have those coaches where you have to really earn their trust and prove it. And I loved that challenge. Like, and when you get their respect, and you're able to have that relationship, it was just it's a great relationship that I had with Coach Jordan. And then just, throughout the process of is in, loving the journey and enjoying the process, and loving the journey. So you're going to come across teammates and guys that are going to help push you, and just building those relationships, and then helping guys along the way. So yeah, those are, I would say those are the shout outs for me, is, my wife, my parents, my teammates that I've trained with, guys here in Charleston. Like, we have a great group of pro guys that have come through that are still training here. So guys like JP Sears, now we have Carmen Malotsky. We have like guys like DJ Johnson. So DJ Johnson's another guy that is joined up with me at Journey Far Performance. We're training athletes and training guys, getting them better. We have just it's a good group here in Charleston that we're leaning into, and now we're helping guys get better.
That's awesome. You mentioned Carmen Majeski. He's
Majeski, yeah.
another guy from down on the island down that way. Was a first rounder at South Carolina. He's been on one of our podcasts, and I've got to get him on again before they crank up. He's in
Hmm.
the rotation with the Pirates. So that's cool. You
Yeah,
gave
and
him a shout out as well.
yeah, he's been coming in. So like that group of like JP, Carmen, DJ, there's a few others, like Evan Sisk and a few other guys that roll through. They all come into the facility here, especially on bad weather days. Able to come in, use the track man. We have it up on the big screen, use the weight room. So those are fun days. And I always have all the high school guys, if they can, they come in. I'm like, hey, you're just going to watch the pro guys today, and watch their routines, watch how they execute, watch what they're working on. And it's a really good, learning process for guys to be able to just watch big leaguers. And I mean, I would have loved that as a high schooler, to be able to, like, yeah, I'm going to come in, I'm going to watch three big leaguers throw and see how they do things. So now that we're able to provide that experience and provide that exposure, I'm, really proud of that.
I'm glad you mentioned Evan Sisk right there. He's with Majinsky in Pittsburgh. I need to get two of
Hmm.
those guys on there, and also need to get a College of Charleston guy with Evan. You get a College of Charleston guy. We've had a pretty good run of Bulldogs on here recently, so
Hmm.
we got to get some equal opportunity for the Cougs across town. Well,
Yeah.
Asher, I really appreciate your time today, folks. That's Asher Wojciechowski, and just really appreciate your time and being candid about your career. What an interesting ride you've had. But now this new endeavor, boy, all signs point to you continue to take all that wealth of knowledge that you've got, all the experience you've been able to have in that journey so far. You're able to help that journey go far for others as well, and I look forward to following that. So we'll go ahead and wind down with that. Again, my name's Austin Alexander, and all you guys that are out there listening in DP land, real close to get to the middle part of the season. Spring break tournaments are around the corner. Region standings are starting to take shape, and a lot of really good exploits of these young men are being had each night. We're trying to pound the pavement, get our radar guns and stopwatches at as many games as we possibly can. Can't be everywhere, but we certainly try to. Everything we're able to do is going to be chronicled on our website. You'll be able to pay close attention on social media. When we're out of games, we've got our phones ready, and we're videotaping whatever we can get our eyes on, and look forward to seeing who does what next. So again, Austin Alexander for Asher Wojciechowski. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you at the ballpark real soon.